1 second. Message, brother Andrew. All right, 16 after. Thank you, everybody, for being patient. Tonight is January 3rd, 2023. Happy New Year. Thank the Creator. We made it to see 2023. Tonight we'll be going into lesson 14, and at this point we're a little ways more than halfway into the lessons, so we're going to pick up the pace a little bit. I expect everyone at this point to have an understanding of Garvey's expectations and what he's trying to communicate, as well as the purpose of this course. So let's see. Add to description. So 1 second. I'm putting our YouTube up. Not YouTube, but our Facebook. Okay. All right. So we're gonna just jump right into it. We should understand the flow at this point. Hopefully everyone reviewed the previous lesson, lesson 12, and we can jump straight into lesson 13. So first question from lesson 12. One of the questions that I like to ask is just to make sure that we're paying attention throughout the course. But I want to ask, what previous lessons does the lesson, The Purpose of Institutions, build off of? That's so small. What previous, and I said 2, but what previous lessons does this lesson build off of? The purpose of institutions. Where are we at in the development of the course? And I know we've had some time off, so it's a little bit of a shock, but we're gonna pick it back up and keep it going. So previous lessons that talk about or build on the purpose of institutions.
Can I give it a shot?
Was that?
Can I give it a try?
Sure. There's no 100% right or wrong answer. This is our opinions. So
Sure. The aims and objects of the UNIA, lesson 3.
Why do you say that?
Because if the UNIA is an institution, I view it as an institution where there is like economy. It talks about economy. It talks about social development, the social system, the way of operating, diplomacy. All of those lessons, I think, build up to the purpose of institutions. And I think the UNIA is an institution where we have a mass of people where there is some kind of organization. Yeah, so that's my reason for saying that.
I like that, Sister Marvia, as well as I believe objective 9 specifically uses the word institutions. We're supposed to be building our institution. So yes, I agree with that. And anybody else have anything, any previous lessons that would build onto purpose of institutions?
Man, the one that we did previously, man, that would be who would go to the institutions, who the institutions would be built for. A type of man that is created through society, that another previous one that we had. So it all leads up to the purpose of an institution.
Excellent. Brother Bruce, I like that. So I think you mentioned man as well as society. So we got man, society, lesson 3, aims and objectives. Anybody else have anything? Or we want to just go to the answers or what I had? Okay. Sister Marvia, I agree with you. I didn't think of that initially. I was more so in line with what Brother Bruce had mentioned. So the 2 I had specifically was lesson 8 and lesson 11. So man and the social system is lesson 8, and man was lesson 11. But in lesson 12 on page 100, so let me go to the book on that one.
Yeah.
This is to the people. Something about an organized mass of society on page 100. 99. Oh, it's the first line, actually. So, new share. Purpose of institutions, lesson 11. First thing he says, organized society is always a mass of people, and as such cannot do anything explicit or by detail by themselves. Hence, the organizing of institutions to do the particular work that cannot be done by the masses as a whole. But organized society, so obviously social system is always a mass of people. But as we've talked about, part of the goals of this course is to improve the people. The people are the core components of societies, communities, nations, and families. So if we want to correct all of these things or improve all of these things, I think rather was a better word, instead of trying to improve each of these individual aspects, why not just improve the individual component that builds into each of these aspects? So institutions, as Garvey said again, organizing institutions is to do the particular work that cannot be done by the masses as a whole. So I'll leave it there because the other questions kind of build onto the rest of the stuff we want to talk about. So any questions on previous lessons for purpose of institutions? Okay. Next question, and I just read this, that's why I had to stop. What are institutions for? What is the purpose of institutions? That's the name of the chapter. That should be one takeaway that we should have. So after reading the purpose of institutions, what are institutions for, according to Marcus Garvey? Oh, I'm sorry.
You still got it up.
Yeah. Yeah. So institutions are, let me see what I'm pretty sure it's to do the particular work that cannot be done by the master as a whole. That is the purpose of institutions. So let me make sure I'm showing the right thing. It's hard to jump back and forth and keep track of what I'm sharing. So maybe I should just share but I don't want to share my screen either. Purpose of institutions is to do a particular work that cannot be done by individuals. So again, we're trying to, the goal of this is leaders of the UNIA. UNIA is a global government. We are nation builders. Us as leaders, we should have the mindset as nation builders. Concepts of nation building, as we've said, comes down to organizing of societies. That's a component of nation building. And then once you come together as a society, the thing that society does to improve itself is to create institutions. So again, I don't want to, yeah. The next question is, what are some examples of institutions? That's what I was getting ready to elaborate on, but what are examples of institutions that society creates for their betterment?
You got churches, you got hospitals, churches, hospitals, banks, manufacturing plants,
Yes. Anybody else want to add? Help the brother. I'm with you, my brother. I'm just typing something somewhere. Anybody else?
Paragraph 2 on page 100.
Uh-huh.
Those are the examples that he, yeah.
Can you list a few, please?
Church, college or university, school, hospital, academy, chamber of commerce, fraternity, trade union, literary club, sports club, athletic club, gymnasium, YMCA or YWCA, etc.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So as well as fraternity. Yes. And I'm thinking, let me see, institutions. So basically institutions, as I've tried to explain before, institutions are children of a society. So the society is like the parent, the community, and the institution is the child that the society creates in order to try to help develop the community. But the institution is only going to be a reflection of the society. So right now, as Garvey said, churches, colleges, universities, schools, hospitals, gymnasiums, chamber of commerce, trade union. These are examples of institutions that we have today to function with. Questions, comments on examples of institutions? Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
Etc. What would you include?
Institutions. My mind initially goes to government. So city hall or city council would be an institution. Police, fire department, medical, those are institutions,
Mhm.
charitable institutions, entertainment, sporting.
Mm.
So institution is a broad concept, and that's something that we have to understand. Usually when I used to think of institution, the first thing that I thought was a building, a building or institute is a building, but institution is really what we're doing now is an institution. Us discussing these ideas of these lessons coming together is an institution. So institution is a subcomponent of organization, but it's agreed upon set of ideals that are to be expressed and to be carried on by a group of individuals. So it can be applied to several different things.
Okay. Earlier on, you said something about nation building and that institution is a component of nation building. That's what you said. I just wanted to be clear that I'm writing my notes here.
Say it one more time.
You said something about nation building, that institution is a part of nation building.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm gonna try to show it. So I think I shared this slide before. This probably is not the best representation, but I hope it'll help. The goal for us, we're trying to build the UNIA-ACL global government, and us doing that. The concept of a nation is similar to an institution. It's an agreed upon set of ideals of a collective of individuals. So when we come together and say that we are going to carry on the legacy of Marcus Garvey and we are going to be the legitimate UNIA-ACL, and we're going to contribute our funds continuously, that in itself makes us a nation. A nation, if you get enough people doing that and agreeing to that, that in itself is a nation. Now, once you have that group, what are the developmental aspects of the group? What are we teaching the nation? What are we feeding the nation? In regards to our relationships with other nations, how are we developing these things? How are we protecting ourselves? So institutions, like I said, are ideas of nations. When a nation comes together and it solidifies itself, it has to come up with institutions to not only sustain itself, but to continue itself. So the fundamental, and I think that's why this course is so important, because one of the fundamental institutions that Marcus Garvey was trying to create, at least from what we read, is this leadership academy, so that individuals would carry on the work and actually know, what needs to be done and what focus to put behind building our institutions. I hope that helps. I feel like I went around the world.
No, it did. It did help. It did help. Now I have a better understanding.
But yes, this is a course, 22 lessons that are written, over 42 lessons in the course. But we should be building ourselves up to be leaders of our community and representatives of our nation. So as I've said, lessons 1 through 7 pretty much just focuses on us as individuals. and our personal development and our relationship with God and history. But lesson 8, when we start to talk about the social system, lesson 9, when we talk about diplomacy, 10, economy, 11, man, which is the fundamental component of a society. Now we're talking about not just ourselves, but the community around us.
Right.
And that's where institutions come in, because institutions are the things that basically create the mindset of the people around us, of the populace.
Right.
So when we look at our people and we're caught up in basketball, football, or entertainment, look at the institutions that this society promotes, and that is, entertainment, capitalism, those type of things. So when we see our people bought into that mindset, you have to, and Garvey, I think Garvey talks about this in this lesson, you have to look for the unseen cause of the seen effect. So just because you see what people are doing and where their mind is and where their energy and finances are going, we have to be able to backtrack and find out what's the cause of that.
Right.
And a big cause of that is institutions, educational institutions, economic institutions, the things, the immoral acts that people have to do, in order to, quote unquote, put food on their table. But these individuals and this society that we live in is a result of the institutions, the institution of slavery, that was an institution. It's not a building that people go to, but it is an idea and an ideology and a mindset that people agree to. That makes it an institution, the institution of racism. These are institutions that are children of the parent America, so when we look at the inhabitants of America, we have to consider, the institutions that created these mindsets.
Right. And I like what you said, and it is so important that the first 7 lessons should be so engrafted in us.
Yes.
So that we would not be too affected by the institutions of the society, the global society in which we live. I guess I am just thinking, if we have those first 7 lessons down packed, it will become, we would have a mindset.
Yes.
To build the institutions that are needed as per Marcus Mosiah Garvey.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent question. Any other questions?
Yeah, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
So basically, this is this institution is a Pan-African institution teaching us how to live in society and how to be better leaders and better Pan-Africanists. Correct?
In a sense. Sense, yes. But it's teaching us how to develop our Pan-African society, Pan-African nation. But at the same time, we have to acknowledge the reality that we have to survive. A lot of our people are in colonized nations. So we have to survive within the society that we are colonized under as well.
Got you.
But then we have to learn how to, if there's such a term, uncolonize ourselves. And in order to build the nation that we really need as a people.
Yes. What example does Garvey use from a cultural, national, racial standpoint? What example does he use throughout the text?
The Jews.
The Jews, exactly. So think about, and we have to think long term. It may not happen in our lifetime, but we have to have a vision in which we have enough control over society to where we have institutions that can affect the education of our youth. So that, as you said, basically we're lost already. So, and we're trying to save ourselves. But the goal is to have a dual education such that we don't become brainwashed or by this system. Because the problem right now is we are victims to America in that America is the only option for African Americans, quote unquote African Americans. The fact that they've taken us from so many different nations and brought us over here, we have no claim to one specific nation. So the best claim that we've been taught to have is the claim to America. But we as Garveyites must create a second national identity outside of just America, because, and Garvey says this in the Declaration of Rights of the Negro Peoples of the World, we're not trying to take away anyone's nationality. If people want to be American, so be it. But we at least need to have a dual education so that we're not only victims of American ideology.
I guess it goes for other nations as well, where we are. I'm thinking of Europe.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the same thing, right? Anywhere we are. I think
Right.
of Brazil. I think
Right.
of, yeah.
And that's the purpose, that's part of the purpose of the Universal Negro Improvement Association. When you look at the Constitution and jurisdiction, that's the first thing. Our jurisdiction is anywhere where people of Negro blood reside. So the goal is not just an American fight. It's not just a Europe fight, but anywhere our people are, we have claim to that land based on our blood right and history, but we also have claim to our greater nation of the UNIA-ACL and our greater lineage and culture. So that's where the dual identification comes in. You can still be a quote unquote American, European, or whatever, but you should also have a solid Garveyite history as well, in comparison to Jews and Jewish history.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? We do got a lot of questions on the presentation, so we're only on the third. That was just a third question. Okay. So I think in support or in continuation of the questions that's being asked, question number 4 states, why does Garvey say that it is necessary for the Negro to pay close attention to developing the appreciation for institutional life? Why is it necessary for the Negro to pay close attention to developing the appreciation for institutional life? Why is it necessary for us as Africans to understand the importance of institutions? It's right in the next line after YMCA. Garvey says so after he talked about the types of institutions, the purpose of institution, Garvey says, in our present civilization, no society would be considered functioning properly if such institutions did not exist. So imagine a nation or society, even Amish cultures, they have to have institutions to address the needs of their community, medical institutions, for birthing, religious. So again, as we talk about nation building and society building, Garvey says, in our present civilization, no society would be considered functioning properly if such institutions did not exist. So therefore, it is necessary for the Negro to pay close attention to developing the appreciation for institutional life. But in a sense, these things go hand in hand. We can't say, no, you won't see a society that doesn't have institutions, and you won't see institutions that are not a part of a society. So we as Garveyites, we as the UNIA, we need to be developing institutions for ourselves and for our people. Questions, comments? So I read this already. Yeah, present civilization requirement is requirement for functioning society. So they go hand in hand. If we're doing one, we should be doing the other at the end of the day. Next question, how should Negro institutions be modeled? How should Negro institutions be modeled? So we have an obligation to build institutions. We know the importance of institutions. We know the relationship between institutions and societies and nations. So when we build institutions, now that we know that that's a responsibility, how should these institutions be modeled?
Should be modeled to the benefit of us,
Of the race, correct?
of the race, yes.
Anybody else? I think you are pretty much correct.
What about it's also based upon his own cultural and civilized idealism?
You reading that in the text?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I see.
Right out of the text.
Yeah, hold on. Let me see what I got. I see it in the text. Let me see what I wrote. But Brother Macias, I like what he said. I remember
Definitely.
Just from a memory standpoint, I remember it being about institutions at the end of the day should be for our benefit.
Right.
We should not be, that should be the foundation of the institutions, modeled with the absolute objective of obtaining the end that is particularly desired by the race. Let's see. Page 101 is where I got that. But I see what you're saying, Brother Bruce. It is incumbent upon him that he have his own culture, that he have control, that he also have and control his own institutions based upon his own cultural and civilized idealism. Yes, sir. As for instance, he may have his own church, but it is not necessary for him to adopt the peculiar articles of faith of the churches of alien races. Where did I get that at? Give me a second. I lost my model with the absolute objective of attaining the end that is particularly desired. Chapter. Let's see. Page 101. How did I not?
It also says it is through the institutions of the race that the civilization and the culture of the race are built. That rounds off to there too.
Yes. His clubs, academies, and unions should be modeled in the same way with, okay, so let me see. Okay. So yeah, he's talking about how we should have our own institutions, but yeah, basically we should have our own institutions, even if they're institutions like other races, like Hebrews. We're not Hebrews. We would not adopt a Hebrew faith. We're not a Roman, would not adopt a Roman. In his religious philosophy, the Negro may safely adopt articles of faith to link him to the Godhead of the Christian faith and practices such as his particular religion, and so likewise with all of other institutions. And also, as Garvey said in lesson 1, we as the creators of civilization, as the creators of education, as the creators of all of these institutions, we have the right to recreate these institutions. So that's one thing. His universities, colleges, and schools may engage in the same process of education, but with an adopted curriculum necessary for the special benefit of the Negro. So that's one of the key points. We can have all of these things that look like, you know, European society, presidents, secretaries, and things like that. But they should be created with an adopted curriculum necessary for the special benefit of our race. Our clubs, academies, and unions should be modeled in the same way, with the absolute objective of attaining the end that is particularly desired by the race. So Garvey is reminding us to have a focus when it comes to institutions, and not a lift everyone up type of focus, but a focus for us as a people specifically. So any questions, comments on this? Yeah, our institutions should be focused for our specific benefit, not the benefit of us and others, but for our specific benefit.
Is that race first?
I
That's race first, right?
would think so. The absolute objective of obtaining the end that is particularly desired by the race. That is race first, if I've ever heard it. Everything that we do, you know, that is the race first ideology. Everything that we do should be something that is desired by the race as a whole.
Mhm.
Okay. Next question. Next question. Why should the Negro never completely surrender himself to the institutional life of other people? Why should the Negro never completely surrender himself to the institutional life of other people? We gotta pick up the pace, y'all.
Would not be original, but we would not be original. We would not be ourselves. We're just copying what other people are doing and how we don't see ourselves as being at the forefront of who we are. We see ourselves as somebody else. We are using somebody else's evaluator to evaluate ourselves as being who we're supposed to be.
Yes.
And that should never be. Again, race first. And again, it goes back to those first 7 lessons. Yeah.
Yes. Well, yes. I mean, everything kind of builds on the first 7 lessons, obviously, but it actually touches on a lesson, next week's lesson. So it's the lesson that we're going to read next week. Brother Macy's, I think I heard you were going to say something. All right. but it's in the next paragraph. But basically it goes, the lesson 14, I believe, is titled self-initiative. But the Negro should never completely surrender himself to the institutional life of other people. Otherwise, he will not be original, but purely and merely a copyist. If this could be appreciated, it shows or reveals the wide fields which have remained untouched for Negro organization and Negro activity. But I don't know if it's previously or later on, but Garvey talks about us surrendering. Yeah, I think he said it's previously. He'll say it again, but us surrendering our self-will, self-initiative. And when you do that, you become a slave to other people's ideas. It's the same from an institution standpoint. If we don't develop our own institutions and we sit back and act as if these other institutions that have been created for us are superior, and again, we're not promoting our own institutions, then we're not being self-reliant. We're actually promoting slavery.
Wow.
So again, we must understand the importance of developing and promoting our own institutions, and those institutions being founded in race-first ideology. So whether it's a charity program, a feeding program, a defense program, a business program, it should be race first. That institution that you are creating and developing, whether you realize it or not, should be modeled on the concept of race first. All right. No questions, comments. That's good. Y'all can't read this anyway, so. Sorry about the size on these. Next year, maybe we'll have oh, that's the answer. He will not be original. He will be a copyist. And we, as the original man, that is unacceptable for us to sit back and submit our originality. Okay. How are the civilization and culture of races built?
How are the civilization and culture of races built?
Through institutions?
That seems like a fair answer.
Right to me.
The civilization and the culture of races through institutions.
One second. Okay. Institutions, through institutions, absolutely. So again, institutions are like the babysitters of a society, and the people in the society are the children. So, and I know I changed that analogy, but based on what the babysitter is instilling in the children, that will determine the behavior of those children. So if we're not creating our own institutions, our own babysitters, then we will, it will be difficult for us to change our culture. Okay, any questions, comments on that? All right. So yeah, again, just re-emphasizing the importance of establishing our own institutions per the words of Marcus Garvey. What does it mean to live on the achievement of other races? And I think I may have spilled the beans on that one.
That you're inferior.
It means that you are inferior. Expand upon that, Brother Macius.
If you live living on the achievement of others, then you don't have any achievement for yourself that you're living on. So you already admitting your inferiority by not even trying to live on your own.
Yes, yes. As Garvey says at the end of page 101 and beginning of page 102, he says to live on the achievement of others is to really admit the superiority of others and inferiority of self. So yeah, as I said, you know, and I guess I was leading into this. If we sit back and say, you know, hey, I have a degree from Cornell University, I have a degree from Harvard University, but we don't apply ourselves, one, I would say, to a HBCU, and that's just fundamental. That's bare, but that's still American society. I read somewhere that Garvey said that, and I gotta, you know, to add credence to this quote, Garvey says that we should be more proud of graduating from our own institutions than from any other institution. So that is why this course is so important. That is why, you know, I personally, you know, I have a degree from HBCU as well as a white institution, but I put and I don't even have a certification for this class, but I put my orientation into the UNIA above those, you know, because that is a certification from our own institution. So again, if we're sitting back and we're living off of our reputations of our success in white institutions, but we're not helping to build our own institutions, we're not participating in our own institutions, we are admitting the superiority of their institutions, and we're also admitting the inferiority of our own institutions. So we have to build, and we have to build institutions everywhere we are. Questions, comments? All right. Thank you, Brother Macius. Question. Okay, so got through that one. Question 8, why are we Black people justified in remodeling and reshaping institutions to fit ourselves? And I'll be giving all the answers.
Nothing new under the sun.
For survival, to be able to put food on the table. That's one reason.
For survival, to be able to put food on the table. It's more fundamental. It's more fundamental. I talked about it earlier. Again, it goes back. I don't want to give y'all too much hints, but why are we justified in remodeling and reshaping institutions to fit ourselves?
It comes back to self-concept. Who do we see ourselves as? That's one. Do we see ourselves as being superior to other races, or do we see ourselves as being inferior? And we have to adjust because we need to survive. I mean, if you.
So we are. So let me hold on. But you're saying we are justified in remodeling and reshaping institutions to fit ourselves because we must survive.
I got one.
What's that, brother Bruce?
Well, from just I every time I always refer back to when this was when these were conceived. Before then, the Berlin Conference, when they came into Africa and they just started dividing up Africa and everything, all of our institutions were destroyed So yes, we are justified in anything that we do after that to rebuild our state of mind as far as Africans and Pan-Africans to go forward. So we're justified in everything we do after that whole little skit that they pulled back in the days and everything, Berlin Conference and dividing and all of that. So we're justified for every damn thing. Excuse my language, but
We're
pretty much.
justified because
Yes, you're
you're
right.
saying we are justified because what was the because it was taken or what are you saying?
No, I mean most of our institutions were destroyed. Most of the people who were of importance were scattered to different parts of the world. Um, they came over and they just said, "Okay, look, Portugal, we're going to take the southern part," and then the Dutch came in, took South Africa, and then just different people came in and destroyed our institutions, our whole they brought in white Jesus, all of that stuff. It's just we're justified. You know what I mean? We're justified in creating our own anything, and we're justified in being race first after the whole everything went down. We're justified for that. I mean, we don't really have to explain that to anybody, other than teach ourselves to these philosophies right now, but we don't have to explain to them why we're being raised first. That's just me, my personal belief in it. We don't have to explain that stuff to anybody. So we're justified.
Yeah. Yeah. I misunderstood the question. I'm sorry.
You're right.
All
right.
Garvey,
Go ahead,
basically
brother.
summed up and said, I mean, I think we're the father of civilization. I think basically what he said, and there's nothing new under the sun.
Yes. May I help, Brother Macy's?
Oh yeah, I'm done.
Oh, okay. But as I spoke on, and as Garvey said in lesson 1, where he talked about us being the fathers of civilization, Garvey said and he's talking about us as Africans, as a race, are justified in remodeling and reshaping things to suit ourselves because there's nothing new under the sun, whatever other people have. So no matter what they have and what they've created, there's nothing new under the sun. We did it first, from a government organization, hierarchy, leadership aspect. We were the ones to create it first. So when it comes to societies and institutions, we created those first as well. The Negro is the father of civilization. He constructed the first government in Africa and thereby taught others the way. So we are the fathers of institution. If we wish to take a concept from another race and remodel it to fit ourselves, we have that right because we gave them the idea in the first place. So we're not, it's nothing new under the sun. We're not stealing, we're just reclaiming. Okay. All right. So let me keep it moving, jump back over. So that's why Garvey says we are justified in remodeling and reshaping institutions for ourselves. Questions, comments? Okay, when is the Negro not living the proper life in accordance with the purpose for which nature made him? When are we as a people not living the proper life in accordance with the purpose for which nature made us?
We're not building for ourselves. We're not being self-reliant.
Who we want to be someone else rather than who we really are.
Ah,
No?
Yes, in a sense, both of y'all are correct. I'm trying to read it in the book, but anyone else? But basically, Garvey mentioned it earlier. God didn't create us to be slaves or to be subservient to anyone else or to anyone else's ideals. So again, when we take the default position of not creating our own institutions, in essence, we're saying that others are superior to us, and that's not in line with what God wanted for us. When the Negro does not have his own, page 103. Let me jump over to page 103 and we'll read that. One oh two, 103. And some physiognomy. I feel like it's up here. Yeah, there it is. Following God in heaven's example, there is no reason why the Negro should not have his, and when he doesn't, he is not living the proper life in accordance with the purpose for which nature made him. But again, God does not make us to be slaves. God did not make us to be subservient. God did not make us to be uncreative, unorganized. So when we do these things, we're not living in accordance with God. And when you really get into Garveyism, that's kind of part of the essence of what he's saying. The role of, again, when we look at history of Black people being the first and first kings and queens and things like that, not saying that all of us are descendants of kings and queens, but we were the first to lift ourselves to the highest example of that, which was closest to God, and that is what we should be doing as individuals, what we should be promoting amongst our community, and what we should be promoting throughout the nation is personal development so that we could fulfill the purpose in which God created for our lives. And that, in essence, has a lot to do with self-reliance and self-initiative. Questions, comments? But yeah, basically, Garvey's saying, it's against God for us not to have our own, and we should feel the same way. What does physiognomy mean, and what is its significance to us as a people? Does anybody know what physiognomy means?
Physical makeup.
Physical makeup. What is the significance of that?
Our physical makeup is different from anything on anybody on the planet. Our nose, our skin. I think he named a couple of things about our body in it.
But what is that saying? What is that saying in a bigger sense?
What did he say? Because our physiognomy. I'm trying to see that paragraph in my mind. He's basically saying because it's different, we have to be different. We have to.
In essence. So Garvey uses some words that I had to look up. So in lesson 1, he uses the word ethnology, ethnology, but it's basically the study of ethnics or ethnic makeup of a particular ethnic group. And he talks about how that when you study that, that will show you that the African race was different. And then he comes back here and he says, physiognomy, your entire physiognomy is different. Our hair is woolly, nose is broad, lips are thick. So this difference must also be intended in your outlook and in your viewpoint on life. Anyone who tells you the contrary is a liar and a fraud, in fact, an enemy to you and to nature. But in essence, one of the things that I've heard, shout out to Dr. Umar, he gave a good analysis of this because he talked about Africans as being sun people and then Caucasians as being ice people. And, you know, us with our broader nose,
Thank you.
woolly hair, we, I don't necessarily like to use the word evolved, but we developed to be a different type of people based on the environment that we lived in, a very lush environment, a very fertile environment. So we, you know, you know, that's what related to our characteristics of being friendly and giving and trading because we had so much of an abundance. But, you know, again, our physiognomy is determined by the areas that we developed as a people. But when you look over at Caucasians and, you know, ICE, they have a limited, you know, resources. So their things are much more scarce. They develop to be much more brutal. You know, cannibalism was more prolonged, according to Dr. John Henry Clark, but just develops a much more
Bestiality.
yes, bestiality. But their resources were just not as abundant. So in order to survive, these individuals developed into a very savage individual to survive. So when you look at our physiognomy, that tells you that we are different and we developed in different spaces. And another great example is bears. So if you look at a polar bear and a grizzly bear, one big difference, you know, is their diets. You know, grizzly bear, brown bears, they can survive off plants, you know, and primarily eat berries and things like that. But a polar bear, they have to eat meat. Well, I'm not gonna say they have to, but their diet is seals, you know, dead whales and things like that. But these are two very similar species, but the fact that they develop in different parts of the world causes them to have different characteristics, you know, and we should acknowledge that. You know, we should acknowledge that because the rest of the world, they acknowledge it whether they say it or not. When they look at us, they see certain characteristics and features, and they know that we have certain personality based on those features. Questions, comments?
Yeah, I got one. And I have this conversation sometimes with white folks, and I tell them straight to their face, you know, sometimes it depends on how deep they want to go with it. Then when the Neanderthals were up and about and in the Eurasia, and they were doing their thing, the Homo sapien, which was the original man of this species, was right here. They didn't come over here into this area, and every time they did, it seemed like because the way our mentality was and how smart we were, I guess we couldn't get along with them because they were more barbaric and more caveman-like.
Yes,
you
sir.
know. So we did mate with them. That's why we do have Homo sapiens that have that are Neanderthals, which are the white folks. They're actual Neanderthals, but at the same time, they're Homo sapiens. You know, they're a hybrid man, a hybrid Homo sapien, basically. So then they have a larger amount of Neanderthal DNA in their DNA. So that's what I've seen. And when white folks they decide they wanna go in that direction, we can always go in that direction because we are different people.
Yeah.
You know, we are their mothers and fathers. We are the original man, and they can't dispute that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely. We have to carry ourselves as such. You know, we are the parents that have allowed the children to rule the world. So we have to step up as the original man and woman and show the world how to lead without bloodshed, without force, without coercion. So thank you, Brother Bruce. All right. Still a couple, man, we're gonna be late tonight. Oh my goodness. What does physiognomy mean? Where does the first white man come from? We gotta speed it up.
Cain.
Cain. What about Cain?
When he killed Abel, God came to him and turned white. When he was in shock.
Pretty much. That's what Garvey says. Anybody else have any questions, comments on that? So according to the lessons, Garvey says that, well, we know, and according to the Bible, Cain slew Abel, but Garvey implies that Cain turned white after he slew Abel. The white man is Cain transformed. He hid in caves for centuries. But this is Garvey's assessment of where the white man came from. Again, it is what it is. Any questions, comments? Straightforward. How did Cain's family get to Europe? If everybody started in Africa, how did they get to Europe?
They was running.
They were running.
Yeah. He was going from cave to cave.
They were running. Why were they running? Who were they running from?
After he
I believe
slew
the
Abel.
ice age was during the ice age, the environment was getting too rough for them, so they started coming more south. They had left out, they were a different species from one, they were a different species, and then they started coming more south and everything, because even the anthropologists, they tell you that the Homo sapiens weren't coming out of Africa. We were cool right here in Africa. That's where we were. Everybody was at. We was just chilling in Africa. The climate was good, all of that. It was them that came and started coming into Africa. All right. Then, we had people that ventured out to different areas.
Yeah, but Brother Bruce, hold on, slow it down, because right now, when we talk about Cain and Abel, this is when there were only 4 people on the face of the earth, supposedly. Well, depending on your interpretation of the Bible, but the family of Adam, Eve, Cain, and Abel is what we're talking about right now. And Garvey is saying that when Cain slew Abel, he turned white. So he became the first white man. And he was run out of Africa by the family of Adam and Eve. They were basically chased out of Africa through the Mediterranean.
Ooh, that's a hard one to bite, man. Because there's a lot of conflicting stuff going on with the anthropology and what the Bible's saying. The Bible's saying one thing, and then the actual DNA traces and what the anthropology and the records and the bones and all that stuff is saying something totally different. So I'm with you though.
Yes, I understand. I'm with you as well, Brother Bruce. Again, this is just us focusing on the text and what Garvey communicated. In lesson 1, I believe it was on page 6 or something, or maybe earlier, page 2, Garvey says we don't have to agree with everything that's written. If there's new information, updated information, or we have better information, we don't have to agree with everything that's written. So I'm not asking everyone to agree with what Garvey is saying. I'm just asking us to understand and be aware of Garvey's interpretation of the creation of the white race. All right. Next question. The world is only part of the universe. What previous lesson used an example of a unit compared to universe?
Universal intelligence?
Yes. What lesson was that though?
See, I wanted to say God, then I wanted to say intelligence, but God came first to me though. Because he was talking about God is universal intelligence and God.
Yes, absolutely right, brother Masis. You got it 100%. And lesson 5, page 45, Garvey talked about God being universal intelligence and man having unitary intelligence. So This is another one of those aspects where Garvey is bringing back a similar relationship. So I think this gives greater insight into Garvey's mindset and philosophy when he does things more than once. So the relationship of unitary versus universal is a concept that we should grasp. So the world is only part of the universe is the whole. Man is only a part of God. God is the whole. All right, any questions, comments? We gotta move. Who or what rules the world and through what? How is lordship acquired? Who or what rules the world?
Man rules the world through his mind, with his mind, not through.
Yeah, man rules the world through his mind. I thought intelligence ruled the world.
You right.
Carries the burden.
You right. That's why I said the mind.
Anybody else? Lordship acquired.
Bob, so he's not here. Let me get him a jacket.
Lordship probably through the development of the mind. Man rules the world through his mind. As far as lordship, let me see, page 105. As God rules the universe and all matter and mind, so man through his mind rules the world over which he is Lord. So God, universe, man, world. So as God is to man, the universe is to the world, over which he is Lord. The whole world then belongs to man. Each man should get his appropriate or proportionate share. When in a lifetime he fails to get this, he naturally fails to lift himself up to his lordship. One man's dispossession of his lordship enthrones another man's sovereignty over him, hence a ruling man and a serving man, a ruling race and a serving race. When in a lifetime he fails to get this. Oh, so when we don't get our appropriate or proportionate share, we fail to lift ourselves up to the lordship that God intended for us. But again, us not living out our purpose, us being content with inferior positions or secondary positions. 15, what happens when man fails to lift himself up to his lordship? I just read this. What happens when man fails to lift himself up to his lordship?
One man's disposition of his lordship enthrones another man's sovereignty over him.
Yes. Hence the ruling man and the serving man. So again, we are surrendering our self-initiative. And I think that's a repetitive theme. We should, feel like, man, he's saying this a lot, but he is. One man's disposition of lordship enthrones another man's sovereignty over him, a ruling race and a serving race. Last 5 questions. There is no other rival but who? Who is our only rival in the world?
Ourself.
I don't think it is ourselves, but I think the answer is actually something else.
Oh, no, okay, well, but
there's no other rival. And maybe it's
Your fellow man.
Yes.
yes.
There's no other rival but your fellow man. Never allow your fellow man to rise higher than you. Otherwise, he will make you his slave. So in lesson 2, leadership, Garvey talked about how a leader must always be superior. And, we could argue what he meant by that, but he's coming back at lesson, what's this, 13 or 12? But at this lesson, he's basically saying, if you're not going to be a leader, you're going to be a follower, so if you're not superior to your fellow man, you will end up being a slave to your fellow man. So we should strive to develop ourselves to a highest level of lordship as possible, and that will prevent us from being anyone's slave. Questions, comments? Your fellow man, page 106. What one thing determines if the world will destroy you or if the world will serve you obediently? What one thing determines if the world will destroy you or if the world will serve you obediently?
You lift yourself up to your lordship.
Lift yourself up to your lordship. It's more, yes, that's general though. It's a more specific.
Understanding the world. If you
Yes.
misunderstand the world, it will destroy you.
Yes, understanding and knowing the world thoroughly.
Yeah.
So you are correct in the aspect of lifting ourselves up, but again, that's general. What specific aspect is Garvey asking us to study? Let me see. If you do not use the world well by understanding it, it will destroy you through its matter and through its mind. If you treat the world well by knowing it thoroughly, the world will serve you obediently. So follow up from lesson 1, intelligence. Study as much as we can. A follow up from, well, I think the next lesson talks about universe and thinking beyond this world. We have to master history and the world will serve us. Okay, a couple more questions. What should you do if you discover knowledge and no one else knows about it? What should you do if you discover knowledge and no one else knows about it?
Keep it.
And use it for the good of your race.
Like that.
Say keep it hidden and something about your race.
Keep it, use it for the good of your race.
Keep it and use it for the good of your race. Absolutely. What does he say that? Your knowledge is everywhere. It is hidden. Search for it. And when you discover it and no one else knows about it, keep it and use it for the good of yourself and your race. And earlier on lesson 1, I believe he talked about keeping a notepad of useful information. So we should be at least keeping track of things that could be beneficial for our people and keeping it for ourselves and using it for the benefit of our race.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 more questions. Your first duty in the world is to who? Who is your first duty in the world is to who?
Yourself, your family, your race, and the nation.
Yes. So that's just an order of, this is Garvey's order of priority. Your first duty in the world is to yourself. Then he says your family, your race, and your racial nation. So yourself, your family, your race, your racial nation. He said, then God comes in at 5. Then worship God absolutely and thank him for all. So I'm not saying that we have to agree, but just so we are aware of what the level of priority that Garvey gave in this text. yourself, your family, your race, and your nation. Last question. Why should we strive to be self-sufficient? Seems straightforward.
It's our duty. We gotta. We'll be slaves if we don't.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
We're not dependent.
Yeah.
To prevent being dependent on the goodwill of others for your sufficiency, no one will give away value that is wanted for self, so you will have to serve and become servants or slaves to sufficiency. So if we don't become self-reliant, we won't be independent, we won't be self-dependent, we'll be slaves to others. Questions, comments? Brother Mason, will you be reading this evening?
Yes, sir.
Lesson 13, and let me go on mute, and the floor is yours.
I think you're still sharing the lesson questions. Or maybe that's my phone.
No, that was me.
Lesson 13, the universe. No man yet knows the riddle of the universe. It has been the eternal puzzle. Men in their searching desires are aiming at unraveling the mysteries behind it. It contains universal knowledge beyond the knowledge of our world. If man can succeed in identifying the facts of the majority of units in the universe, he approaches a greater degree of knowledge than those who confine themselves only to the investigation of things terrestrial. The greater minds of our world have experimented and are experimenting in their desire to grapple with all the facts that sustain the universe. No one knows if man will be permitted to enter into the mysterious realms of knowledge, but it is the duty of man to stretch his imagination afield and gather for himself as much information as is naturally possible. Therefore, never rest with your limited knowledge of the world, but seek to find other knowledge with which you may be able to lift yourself far above that which has been attained or accomplished by man. In the universe, there are mysteries which may be mathematically or scientifically measured and reduced to the concept of the human mind. Let your mind reach out then to the grappling of these mysteries by an approach based upon reason. As man, before you discovered many things, gravitation, the fixed position of the stars, the regular movements of planets, and such heretofore hidden facts. You may, in the search, find out new truths upon which your race and civilizations might climb to the heights pinnacle. Therefore, always carry an observant eye and an analytical mind. You may suddenly stumble upon some truth for which your world is waiting. It doesn't matter who the person is. When he has discovered the truth for which mankind is in need of or searching for, he becomes a hero and an immortal. Try to grasp at immortality by leaving behind. Scroll up for me, brother. Scroll up. All right. Try to grasp at immortality by leaving behind a never dying name because of the exceptional things you have been able to perceive and discover through the hidden mirror of universality. If you can see visions and dreams and make your visions and dreams true, you may focus the fact and the truth beyond your immediate reach by measuring them with your sublime knowledge. Find the cause to justify the effect. The effect is visible everywhere, but the cause is generally hidden. Follow the line by degrees until you approach the start, the beginning, the source. Never stop halfway, but go right through. If you have good grounds to believe that there is something beyond, if there is a mountain, it is suggestive that there is a valley behind it. Don't rest with the mountain because you see it. Search for the valley because there may be much hidden there. Never cease studying the ideas of the facts that may lead you to definite conclusion. The things of this world have become common because most of them have been revealed as far as we know, but there are uncommon things even on this earth and much so in the universe that we may search after and make use of as we make use of things today brought to us through the probing genius of other men who saw the need for more and searched for it and brought it to mankind. Edison saw the need for more light and he brought more brilliant electricity. Stevenson saw the need for more speed and he brought the rapid moving engine with its steam. Fulton saw the need for more river transportation and quicker speed and he brought his steamboat. Harvey saw the need for conquering the mysteries of the human system and revealed the circulatory system. Observe well and see what mankind needs most in addition to what they have and try to bring it to them. That is the way you stand out in immortality, as these men do stand out among us today, even though they are dead, and some of them have been dead for ages. If I could lie down and dream out of my subconscious mind the dream of life and find its source in a more direct way, how much more could I tell about life to astound and convince men of what life is? It is the dreamer, the subconscious manipulator who sees things by looking through the mental darkness. Therefore, see things for yourself and see them in a way that mysterious universe. It is said that God is behind the universe. No man has ever seen God. Suppose you, like Christ, could see God. What a wonder and an amazement. Christ saw God behind the universe as man. Christ was an object lesson to man's glorification and knowledge. Therefore, if you approach thought with its deepest sublimity, you may see as much as Christ saw when he saw God. It is thought that created the universe. It is thought that will master the universe. Man must therefore use his thoughts to the limit to get the best results from the universe. No thinking, no knowledge, proper thinking may lead you suddenly into the conquest of that which hereto was mysterious. If man can think most excellently, then he climbs in that excellence to the companionship of the most excellent. As he climbs in his excellence to the most excellent, he shall not be presuming, but he shall be taking himself up to the most excellent, that which in other units was not excellent. And like the dutiful servant who used his talents and used them well, he shall be possessed of that talent of that servant who hid his and was ultimately deprived of it for the benefit of the servant who used his because he could appreciate the gifts. Man in his excellence lifts himself up highest to God by his mental industry. And the man who has no mental industry forfeits that mentality to the youthful servant who climbs in his excellence to the most excellent. Brush away the cobwebs of your mind and see the universe as looking through a crystal, because beyond you, all is bright and beautiful. The darkness is in you. See the light. We want knowledge to lighten our darkness. Bring down the light and knowledge into your soul and flash it through your mind like the spark from the thunderbolt. And all creation will ignite in one glorious illumination, and you will pass through mysteries of the universe with the knowledge and eyes of a God. If I could dream my life into eternity and come back with wisdom, should not I have the surpassing knowledge of my fellows? Then why not seek it since it is there for man? Then why not seek it since it is there for man to seek out and possess himself of it? It is when you can reach up to it that you approach God's elevation, not in rivalry of God, but as coming to God, of whom you were always a part, but for the darkness of your own soul. Illumine the soul, and God's brilliancy will be revealed as it was revealed to Christ when the halo surrounded his head and he was declared the begotten Son of God, in whom God was well pleased. What a world of unfurlment. What a universe of expectation to which man in his sublimity may climb. Why not be the first soul outside of Christ to climb in that sublimity to the most excellent? The Greek philosophers suggest to the Greek youth that he should know himself. Across the temple of Delphi was written these words, man, know thyself. But I may add also, man, know thyself, and man, know thy universe, and man, know your God. In searching for this knowledge, you may stumble upon the truth, a revelation that may lead you up to the highest of glory, to be known as the greatest soul that fathoms the depths and reaches the heights. Universe, lesson 13.
Thank you, Brother Macius. It is 9:46. We are behind on time. Any questions that we have before I go through the attendance? But any questions in closing?
Peace and love, family. This is Lady President K from Division 121. I know that we probably went over a bit of this in class, but I was a little bit late, and I have been receiving a question that sometimes takes me aback a little bit, just because I assume African people, at least in this day and age, to know our plight as African people, but I am generally faced with the question of what benefits can be gained from joining the UNIA. And it disrupts my spirit all the time, but I would like to know, just from our president's standpoints, the president's on this call, what is authentically constitutional way of answering such a question? Of the benefits, like, what can I gain if I join the UNI? What do I gain when I join the UNI? Those are the questions that Lady President is receiving in 2023.
Would somebody else like to answer that before I give my thoughts?
I'm gonna let you go first, President John. Let you go, President John. No, we have concern all the time, President John. I know we talk about this all the time.
Yeah, give me 1 second, man. It's the toughest, one of the toughest things that we deal with, rightfully so. All right, so I'm trying to get this calendar stuff together. Man. That's a great question. So
I got one for you, sir.
go ahead, Brother Bruce.
Hopefully in the near future, we'll have jobs available for folks, some type of steady income that'll bring folks to come in the door. So we do have things to look forward to, there's different people that have plans for incomes for anybody that joins the UNIA. That's a big plus right there. You got new recruits that come in that have ideas that can add to the collective. We just have to initiate some of them,
Yeah, I hear you, Brother Bruce. And Sister K has been around for a little while. And that's right now, unfortunately, that's the best thing. One of the best things that we have to offer our people is a vision of potential, what we can do in the future once we are organized, once we have resources. But I would assume that, yeah, like I said, Sister K has been around for a while. So these individuals that are asking these questions are beyond the vision as a suitable response, like, maybe in 5 years, 10 years or whatever. That's not enough. Where I was going was historically, we have to, Garvey teaches us to be students of history. When Garvey and the UNIA was as successful as they were in the past, there was a bit of a financial incentive with the Black Star Line steamship company stock. There was a potential economic incentive for people to contribute their funds. So there was a return on investment. They knew that if they gave this much money at this time, then they could expect this much money in the future. The best example of that, or current situation or current institution that we have like that, would probably be Rock out of New York. What they're trying to do with the stocks and having return on investment for the stocks, and that has been a quote unquote approved endeavor by the government. That being enough attraction to bring people in. To answer your question, I don't think that's everything, but I think that is a component. Right now, the thing that I'm trying to focus on as far as an asset to provide something that we can all take ownership of and implement immediately is this training. Now, this training is Course of African Philosophy focused on UNIA-ACL in general and as a whole. However, as we've discussed and as we've gone over, there are aspects of this, specifically the first 7 lessons. If you take out the words UNIA, those can be used in any personal development or motivational speaker type course. So it's a tough thing to answer. Most of the answer is going to be a vision and trying to get people to buy in to the vision. But as far as immediate things, we offer training and development. And beyond that, it would have to be local programs that each of the divisions chooses to do. So like here in Atlanta, one of the things that we're trying to do is a after school program. But that would be another, this is a reason why you would want to join the UNIA. But from a larger parent body standpoint, I don't think we don't have a recruiting tool to compete with what Garvey had in the 20s with the stock. So the best thing I say in summary and in closing, the best thing other than the vision is a form of training and development. This is Marcus Garvey's Course of African Philosophy, specifically for the leaders of the UNIA after his transition. So there's no other course of leadership provided by someone that, has gone down in history as one of, if not the greatest, at least modern day organizer for our people. So that's something that we offer that should be somewhat of a benefit, but we don't have the immediate economic, attractions. So our attractions right now are a long-term vision of what we could do collectively, and this training and development provided by the Honorable Marcus Garvey.
Greetings, Brother John.
Brother Andrew.
Yes, greetings. I'm sorry, didn't need to cut in or anything. But I had a question here. the
Well,
message
Brother
to the
Andrew,
people, right?
Brother Andrew, hold on. Was this question in relation to what we were just discussing, or is this something else?
Uh, well, uh, well, in two parts. Okay. Just to piggyback on what you were saying, the way I looked at the
We veg you back,
UNIA,
bro. We veg you back. I just gotta cut you. I'm sorry. We don't pick you back. We veg you back. Keep
all
going.
right, all right then. Okay. All right, thank you. What I'm saying is this. Personally, I didn't join the UNIA for any kind of benefit.
Yes,
I
sir.
just joined it to learn about Marcus Garvey and which way, how I could help people of African descent.
Yes, sir.
But I had a friend of mine who had asked, well, why does they still use the word Negro? United Negro Improvement Association.
Universal.
Yeah, I get that a lot. When I talk to my friends and so forth. So why are you still using the word Negro? So what should be my response to that?
Okay, hold on. First, I want to touch on, because Sister K, I don't think we fully addressed.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. I don't think, we haven't gone over her question in depth, but you did bring in a good point. But that's something that we have to look at as leaders, and something that we have to be honest about. What brought us in is not necessarily what's going to bring other people in. And this is where me and Brother Omasius have headbutt quite a bit, because I feel like I'm, not tooting my own horn, but I consider myself somewhat of a Garvey purist. I came to Garveyism in my 30s. It wasn't something that I was trained into and developed. I lived my life. I developed my own set of ideologies. And then when I found out about Marcus Garvey, his ideologies was in line with mine and surpassed mine. So for me, and I guess, Brother Andrew, what you're saying is, we're here. Some of us are here because honor of Marcus Garvey, honor of the legacy, wanting to learn how he did what he did. How was he successful in organizing our people? Some of us will join just for that aspect. But there is another population of our people that specifically want to know, what's in it for them. What is the immediate impact, immediate benefit, or long-term, impact and benefit to them and their family. How does this help me and my family tomorrow? So we have to be able to address those questions. And I think our lack of ability to address those questions is part of the reasons why the organization has been somewhat stagnant over the years. But that's one thing. And again, I don't want to go too, but hold that. And then the Negro aspect. That's a whole deeper discussion. But in essence, is a couple ways we can go through this. But at the end of the day, from a legal standpoint, the accomplishments that Marcus Garvey and our ancestors did legally was done through the name Universal Negro Improvement Association. So for us to pick up that legacy and carry on that legacy and carry on this flag has already been assigned a declaration according to a organization, race, and government known as the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League through the Declaration of Rights of Negro Peoples of the World. So the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League is a part of a completed package that was provided by Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey himself, the red, black, and green flag, as well as everything that's associated with it, the Constitution, and then Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League. You can't separate these three components. Just like Garvey talks about the Holy Trinity. This is a Holy Trinity of Black nationality is what I called it in the past, but of Garveyism and the UNIA. So legally, we're bound to that name. If we want to change the name, and I've said this to amongst other people as well, if we want to change the name, then we need to repeat the accomplishments that were done in the name of the UNIA. So if we want to change the name to Universal African Improvement Association, that's great. I'm on board. I'm with it. If we can get 25,000 people to come together and have a plebiscite, if we can agree upon a Declaration of Rights of Negro Peoples of the World, or whatever peoples of the world, let's do it. If we can create a flag, let's do it. If we can create an anthem, let's do it. But we have to ask ourselves, is it worth it to redo all of these things just because a particular word is in a title? So I could talk about this all day, but at the end of the day, legally, we are bound to this name because that is the name that the accomplishments were done in.
President, I wanted to add to the question about the benefit real quick.
Yes.
And for me, what immediately came to my mind was President Raymond Duguay, what he says in orientation that the UNIA is for. And he says race pride and self-reliance.
Yes.
And when I heard that race pride, I'm like, okay, my question came to my mind, what does that do for me? Right. Race pride. And I had to answer that question so I could be able to present it. And so for race pride, I think about how this system used they used the energy of shame to be Black, and of also when through this course, how Garvey always talks about lifting ourselves up to honor, the honor that Garvey talks about, so if I explain it to a person, I would explain it to how by having race pride, we're counteracting the systematic process of trying to dumb us down to not lift ourselves up to the creative nature that that is our duty. And that's where self-reliance come in as we regain our race pride, which Garvey stood upon. He stood upon us being honorable, and that honor gives us the duty to be able to create for ourselves. And we can't do that without numbers. And the UNIA gives us those numbers to be able to connect with Black people all around the world, wherever Black people are, to be able to ensure that we can create for ourselves. So that race pride that gives me the ability to know that I can create for myself and others that I can connect with to be able to create all the assets that we need to be self-reliant and live the life we deserve as direct descendants of God.
I want to bring Sister K back.
Excuse me, sir.
Well, Brother Bruce, hold on. Let me bring Sister K back in just to make sure we are at least in the ballpark of answering her question. Sister K.
Yes, family. Give thanks for everyone's responses. I think, I'm right on the money with, my responses to Africans. I just wanted to sort of get a general synopsis of what the group felt the response was. So yes, I, generally respond to these questions with first and foremost, our own power in government, forming our own government, allowing ourselves to invoke ourselves in the legislative constitutional body that we have as opposed to what the United States government has. I always encourage our membership, or just Africans in general, that our president is Black. Our African president is specifically for us. We chose him. We vote for him. We have our own governmental procedures that we're involved in, And so, I mentioned these conversations. I mentioned the rights to self-reliance and self-determination through business and these things. So I'm grateful that my responses are similar to the ones that were given tonight, just to make sure that we are, in alignment with each other. So give thanks, family. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Sister K. Race first. Brother Bruce. Brother Bruce, you there?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'm here, sir. Me personally, just me, I'm still learning. I'm in the class, I'm still learning. But um, I have ideologies and I have ideas too. Just to put that up there. I think that um, when she asked what people would look, why would they want to join the UNIA? But just from my personal observation, everybody I've dealt with, the youngins, they want money. They want money, or they want something that's more tangible than just being, in the member of a group. They want something,
Right.
and I see it in everything. And it's not greed or nothing so much to say. It's like, why do I need to spend my time doing this and I'm not getting nothing in return? It's not making me no money. It's not doing anything else. And I've when I introduce this UNIA to them, because it is the Universal Negro Improvement Association, right? I introduce to them. I give them, first thing I do, I give them the philosophies and opinions of Marcus Garvey. I send it to them. I have the ebook. I give them the ebook, and then we can sit down and we can discuss a couple of things. And I might give them a couple of other books, and we try to have a little bit of a conversation. But it all comes back down to, what am I going to get out of this? I mean, I got to work. I got to work. I got stuff to do. I got to babysit. They want money. If you got some money, then you can bring them in. And I feel where she was coming from, because it is a hard conversation to come up with. I believe in the flag. That's what they the flag is good and everything. It's not. I mean, that's this 2023 now.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? In his heydays, the UNIA was in his heydays in the 20s and the 30s and everything. So I mean, I even had a pastor ask me, "So what are y'all doing now?" You know what I'm saying? And the Rock is doing some stuff, but we need to do a little bit more. So I think some of the presidents need to get together, and we need to come up with some initiatives for 2023, like really, really quick.
Yes,
because it's another year that passes by. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
You got me.
Well, all right, hold on. Yeah, you're saying a lot. I will reach out to President Everett and ask him about the meetings with our Minister of Labor and Industries, President Clyde. He's been meeting with presidents and commissioners throughout last year, after convention last year, and I'm pretty sure those meetings will continue. But we are in discussion about economic endeavors that we can pursue throughout each division.
Right.
But let me hold on, Brother Mason. I'm because y'all said a lot, but what we're talking about again is different motivations. Like Brother Macy's mentioned pride. I mentioned, the alignment with Garveyism and his principles. But again, we just went over questions about the purpose of institutions. I'm trying to think of how to. Institution is like a broadcasting point. Imagine a satellite or an antenna that broadcasts things out. That's what an institution does. And the people around it are the ones that are affected by what's being broadcast out. We are in a very critical, significant transition. Because as we said, our motivations for coming in were based upon internal liberation, internal pride, but not from a survival aspect. You know, the mindset now has been switched to survival. You know, so what brought us in, you know, pride in our race, or for me, it was about one of the things I always wanted in life was freedom, but I understood that freedom came with responsibility, and it's not just, you know, loose, you know. But again, when I found out about Garveyism, that was the key for me, you know, because it's freedom of self-reliance, freedom of independence, and, you know, no one but God has a right to tell me that I can't do this. You know, that was my mindset. That was the mindset of our generation. So that's why we came in. But this generation that's going now, they're trying to put food on the table. They're trying to not necessarily, they're trying to do more than put food on the table. They're trying to wear designer clothes and, you know, waste money. But that is the message that's being put out by the institutions, and that's the importance of the UNIA, each of these divisions, these type of meetings, the orientation. We have to provide a counter message, even if our message isn't as you know, it's hard to compete with the media system, but we have to do everything that we can to make sure that the coming generations, one, we get them involved, but two, we address their motivations for getting involved. So, Brother Omasius, were you going to say something, or was it Brother Bruce? I think.
No, yeah, I was, but I just wanted to clarify that, you know, I love what you said about the institutions. And for me, race pride helps us be able to build institutions. For me, it's all about economics, 100% about economics. And I don't believe it just started. I believe that it was about economics in Garvey time. And that's why he used the Black Star Line, because even back then, I believe Black people was the same. They still wanted to know what was in it for me. I think Garvey he was ready to answer that question.
Yes, yeah.
But
I also think, hold on, Baba James. I also think it was a different aspect of people's mentality, being able to and willing to support a long-term venture. You know, if you tell our people today, you know, we talk about a 5-year plan, I'd be interested to know how many people would support and be patient to allow it to come to fruition. But Baba James, you were gonna say something?
Yeah, per our Constitution, everybody that looks like me is a member of the UNIA.
Yes, sir.
The benefit to joining that, the benefit to being an active member of the UNIA-ACL allows you the first opportunity to invest in what the UNIA is doing. It allows you to be the first to invest your time, your volunteers, and be on the front line to know what's going on before those people who are not active members of the UNIA do. Because whatever we do as UNIA active members, it's all for the benefit of all UNIA members, which we all know everybody that looks like us. And we were born into being UNIA members, unless you're over the age of 100 years old on this call.
Yes.
So the benefit of me joining the UNIA was simply peace of mind that everything that I do is now recognized by a red, black, and green flag of my people. And if I want to continue my own personal mission of building unity with people that look like me, I have to have principles that are based on that. And that's what Garvey gave us 100 years ago.
Yes, sir.
I like that, Baba James. That was great.
Race first, race first.
Yes, sir. But yeah, but Baba James, you said, I don't want to, you know, I know it's 15 after, but you said something that kind of caught my attention. I mean, if everything that active members does is for the benefit of the non-active members, again, as if I was to put myself in where I was, you know, in 2015, 2010, you know, why not just let y'all do all the work, you know, and I come in and claim the benefits, you know, because I'm still part of the government based on race, but I just don't have to do the work.
Well, as we know, you know, we have auxiliaries to do certain works, you know, but just because people are not involved in the auxiliaries and are paying their dues and they're aware and they're able to, again, in Garvey's time was different. It was a lot of different conflicts there where being a Black person had no direction because you didn't have a flag.
Hmm.
You weren't considered American, you know, through slavery. So we had something to identify with, and we could say, hey, forget y'all, this is about us. And an active member, in my opinion, has the responsibility of being the example for everyone to come. If we're moving ourselves from the slave mentality, of which you don't have to teach, but show, if you move from that through the example. A child doesn't have to be put in shackles if their parents are slaves.
Right.
However, if we consider ourselves the parents of active members, you know, as active members, we consider ourselves the parents and we lead ourselves as the example, those children will follow that example.
In theory.
Well, it's the mentality that's gotten us this far.
Yes.
You know, I don't know too many other people or nationality or race of people who don't practice a similar circumstance of raising their children to understand how their culture operates. You know, there are rites of passage through the Jewish tradition
Right.
that puts you to know when you are a man or when you're on the path to being a man. You know, if you live over in Jerusalem now, everybody goes to is military trained
Right.
like right after high school.
Yep.
Like everybody, like no exceptions.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? To that, you have to do that service before you can do any other service within the community. You know, like there is no job unless you've been through that.
Yes.
So, you know, as we take the opportunity to implement these structures into our community, our institutions, our society, our communities, and we're late to the game, you know, based on our distractions, this is what we have to keep in mind. It isn't about what we can do today, it's about what foundation we can prepare for tomorrow, which is what Garvey's already done for us in his day.
Yes, yes. But again, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but for me, it still comes down to a mindset. I mean, and everybody's saying it, mindset. We have to be able to address the mindset of our people and question, you know, their motives. Why do you feel that it's better to contribute to the United States government rather than the UNIA-ACL government? You know.
Well, it's not a matter of why would you do one instead of the other. It's that you have a responsibility to do this in addition to the other. You're already conditioned to contribute to the American government when you pay tax on a dollar.
Yes.
You know, the first time you make a purchase and you pay tax, you're contributing to the American government.
Yes.
Whether you buy black or you buy from a white institution, you know what government is where that is concerned. We don't practice currently explaining our government as part of our culture.
Right. But again, that's why institutions important, because culture, you know, as we've talked about, is a component of education. That's something that is taught, but these things are usually taught through some form of institution. So we as a UNIA, as a division, we have to establish, nurture our own institutions to address the mindsets of the next generations.
I agree.
I agree too.
I mean,
Institutions.
I agree. But as to, you know, when me and you, we discuss this regularly when we talk about our investments and commitment to keeping Garvey Hall on Tuesdays.
Yes,
You know, this particular investment that we make has to bear fruit.
yes, yes,
And until we find out what particular seeds to put in our garden, you know, we still have to till the land.
yes. But we've got to, I think the challenge is getting everyone to buy into the value of the land, you know, and that take ownership, you know, of the land or of the government, wherever we want to consider the discussion.
Yeah. And it would probably go a little different for me if what the government was doing was what the people I know that we want to reach are actually participating in. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody's gonna be happy with the government now because it's tax time, and they're gonna get their receipts back from their taxes.
Yeah.
So you know, between now and then, you know, our focus could be how do you invest your tax money in something that is race first,
Yeah. Self-reliance, self-governance.
self-reliant. You know, when we continue as we continue to build our leadership, our plans, and put these things into motion, they'll be seen. But you know, when I again say that everybody's a UNIA member, that just means that everything that we can do, we are currently doing. We're just not doing under the name of the UNIA because we haven't reached that person to have them sign up and join.
Yeah. 10, it's 22 after 10. It's still a weeknight. I got to get to work in the morning. We do need to close this out. Sister K, this is an excellent question. As I said, we can and we probably should, you know, be discussing this more often and in depth until we come up with a solution for our problem, specifically for membership. But excellent question. But any closing comments on the lessons or what we can do to improve our recruiting membership?
Brother John.
Yes, Brother Andrew.
Yeah, that's Brother Andrew. Yeah. The book, Marcus, Message to the People, the course on African philosophy.
Yes, sir.
Was that emailed to us? Do you have it like on a PDF version?
I will send you email. Let me see. I'll do it right now while we're on the call.
All right. Well, I could, and the test is March 4th, I think, right?
Depending on when we finish. So
Okay.
early March. Yeah.
All right then. I got some studying to do.
Yes. Yes, we all do. But there will be a study guide that I'll provide. I'm gonna forward you this right now. What's your email, Brother Andrew? Brother Andrew, what's your email? Brother Andrew, you there? Come on.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Sorry. It is AC or Alpha Charlie 160
Got you.
771
Got you.
at gmail.com. Let me say it again.
I got it.
All right, cool.
I am sending you the digital copy. It's got everything except for, I don't think it has the last lesson 22.
All right. So the test is based primarily on what we read in this book, correct?
Yes, sir. The tests will be basically the study guide and the test questions come from the PowerPoint questions. So I won't pull everything, but the ones that are most critical to each lesson. So let me see. Like the goal of enlightenment, that may not be. Oh man, I'm giving y'all that's next week's questions. Hold on. No other rival but your fellow man. Like that's something that will probably be difficult to remember, especially when earlier on it talks about us being our own, or good and evil is our enemy in the lesson on man. So first duty in the world, this probably won't make it. What would make it? But more important questions would make it. Why are we justified in remodeling and reshaping institutions? I think that's an important one. Cain and his family is not really important. The correlation between universal, that won't be a lesson 12 thing. That'll probably just be limited to lesson 5, but it'll just be a shortened, condensed, more critical version of what we've gone over for each of the lessons, but there will not be anything on the test that was not presented in the PowerPoints. So it's the exact same questions.
Okay, I appreciate that very much, brother. Thank you.
1027, any closing comments?
Excellent course for today. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Brother Bruce.
Yes.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Yes, Happy New Year. Thank you, everybody, for coming back. I know it can be difficult after a break and a holiday to get back to business, but we want to be studious, we want to be serious, and we want to follow this course to completion. And the only way to do that is to stay on task. So this was lesson 13, universe. Next week, we'll go over the questions from lesson 13. And we're actually behind. We were supposed to read lesson 14 today. So I have to read lesson 14 in the beginning of next week. We'll do the questions from lesson 13, and then we'll read lesson 15. And then the following week, we'll have questions from lessons 14 and 15 at the same time. But we want to finish up. Like I said in the beginning, we should, at this point, we should have a general grasp of what Garvey's trying to communicate. And if you don't, it's basically he touched on it in this lesson. And this will be questions for next week. But the world, or the universe, is full of light and darkness is in man. But it's our job to lighten up the darkness within man. So starting with ourselves, and the way to do that is through enlightenment and learning. So increase the light within ourselves. Then we go out into the community, increase the light within our community, and then we develop an organization of individuals that are increasing their light, to try to achieve that lordship. But that's really, this is, and again, this is Garvey in his 50s, not Garvey in his 30s, not Garvey in his 40s. So I consider this to be the culmination of what Garveyism became. We talk about, in the 60s, Black Power, race first, Africa for the African, those at home and those abroad. Up you mighty race, you can accomplish what you will. These are all things that Garvey said throughout his life, but I think it's crystallized, when he talks about us trying to be the light, and us trying to outshine the darkness that's in humanity and in the world. All right, 10:30. We about to close out. Baba James, will you be able to close us out?
Africans, repeat after me. The fist in the air. Africa,
Africa.
Hold up. One God. Go ahead.
One
Baba.
God,
One God.
My God.
No, Baba
one
James.
God.
name.
Hold up. Baba James, you got it.
And you even had it right the first time?
You started with Africa for the Africans. We're doing one God, one aim, and then Africa for the Africans.
One God,
One
One
God,
God,
one aim,
One
one
aim,
aim,
one destiny.
one
one
destiny.
one
destiny.
destiny.
Africa
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 for the Africans.
for the
For the
for the
Africans,
Africans.
Those at home
those
those
at
at
home
home,
Those at home
and those abroad.
and
and
those
those
and
abroad.
those abroad.
Race first.
race first.
Race
Yes, sir.
first.
Go in peace, family. Y'all get some
Race
rest.
first, brother.
Hit me up.
Bob James. Okay.
Brother
Race
John.
first.
Brother Andrew.
Yeah, I was wondering. Was the attendance taken?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. All right. I appreciate it, Brother John.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thanks for having me on the call. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Have
James,
a
what
great
I'm supposed
one.
to call you about?
You ready to talk to me?
No, Baba James. I was supposed to call him for something. I forgot. I know I got to get you some pictures of products. Baba James, you're on mute. All right.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on a couple of things we had discussed.
All right. Give me.
You know, normally we'd have had some time in our meeting today. We can do it tomorrow. We can get about 30 minutes.
Let's do it tomorrow. I'll give you a call tomorrow. Or give me a call tomorrow. It don't matter.
All right.
Race first, brother.
Race first.